We'll
This
try.
meeting is being recorded.
Hello and welcome to the Boulder EXO presentation. Phil Gruber tonight. I'd like this to get centered so we can all go up together and hear him from this level, and from our hearts. I'm going to be reading a poem by Claire Dubois, who is an amazing poet. She was a woman of the trees. She's started an organization for women that's in 200 countries right now, and her poetry soars. It's beautiful. So in this time of transition, as we move from the old to the new, the age of Pisces, patriarchy, to the age of Aquarius, love, the illusion of separation to the certainty of unity, we remember to attend now to the still center within us. Okay, everybody breathe. Okay, and here's Claire's incredible poem. Can you feel it? Life breaking through inside us like an undeniable rising tide of wild brilliance and truth, asking us to wake up and rediscover ourselves as the planetary beings and hearts that we are, inviting us to break through our fears and separation, melting the divides to find a melody that unites us, a tune that activates all of our hearts, a song that tells us who we are growing into, a truth that touches us so deeply that we long to hear it with every fiber of our being, that gives us permission, that takes off the brakes, that unleashes love and the creativity of our whole species, that tunes us back into the soul sanity that lives us, that serves to unite the more that we are, so that the power of our collective awakening breaks us out of the mold that has held us back and delivers the quantum shift needed to activate our profound potential as restorers of life's exquisite and miraculous extension. So be it.
Wow.
Okay. Next is review of this month's UFO news. So I'll share screen here and pick this one, I hope. Good. It looks like it's working. And then set the slideshow to here. It does work. Yay. So, first thing, Elon Musk came up and said, hey, there's no evidence of non-human intelligence anywhere. And so Elon is taking the company line as it's changed. The Pentagon's decided that we've revealed too much and we need to step back and say that, nope, there's nothing there. And so it's a change from disclosure. And in that light, UFO whistleblowers are going to U.S. senators instead of the AARO. So AARO was set up for whistleblowers to come to, and then they would release the whistleblower information. But it's turned out that that's actually more of a counterintelligence operation to find whistleblowers. So they've said, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. And finally, 20 and Back Secret Space Program. Jason Sands, a new whistleblower, just revealed a 20 and Back program where they take children for 20 years and then they regress them and put them back in time of when they took them. And these whistleblowers are beginning to get their memories back. And that's been very interesting. And so that's the month in review. Thank you. And so stop sharing. There we go. It works. And so, Kathy, take it away.
Okay, I will try. Let's see. It's still on you. So let's see if I can get us back. Okay, nope, it's still on Gar. Oh, well, I don't know why. So I am super excited to have everyone here tonight to meet my friend and become as big a fan of Phil Gruber as I am. Tonight he's going to talk about contact with higher intelligences, and he's going to give us a different perspective of our reality as we know it. We're talking about different dimensions and realities. So with that, I'm just so excited. Phil will be here in Boulder next week as well. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy this presentation and want to learn more from him. So with that, Phil, please come forward.
Okay, how's that?
Hey, you're
All right.
here. Thank you, dear.
Okay, let's start with some screen sharing. I want to start out with a large context and then move further and further into how it affects our lives on a daily basis. I want to talk about what I believe, what we believe, what many believe is happening on the planet now. We all know there are shifts going on, variations in vibration and frequency. Well, the paradigm that I adhere to, the larger paradigm is called chelantic morphogenetic science. And the lion's share of this work comes from my former wife, my ex-wife, my first wife. Many know her as Anna Hayes, Ashiana Dean, Anna Hayes Gruber, lots of different names. I think she's known as E.A. Chanel. So it's going to be a combination of stuff that she brought in, that we brought in, that I brought in. But it's all under the banner, I believe, of what's called chelantic morphogenetic science, including something called Cathara healing, biospiritual healing, which I'll talk about later. The talk I'm going to be giving, the live talk when I'm in Boulder on Wednesday, is going to have some overlap with tonight's material, but Wednesday's talk is going to be mainly talk. Now you know where I really come from, is have to do more with the indigos. Rick wants me to combine a talk about the indigos with sacred geometry and light language. Well, guess what? I put it together, and it's going to be a really amazing talk. The weekend is going to be about a program. I'll tell you, with all this stuff and all this other stuff, if I'm going to be remembered for one thing, if I leave a legacy behind, it's this program that I'm going to be teaching over the weekend the most. I was looking for a name for a program in which people would really maximize and optimize their resources, their knowledge, all their gifts and talents from this life, from past lives, future lives, parallel lives. So I was thinking about it. What would be the good name for a program teaching people how to maximize and optimize their lives? And I came up with it, the MOST program, Maximum Optimization Success Training. I put something together called the Plus Ultra System. It's composed of 7 modules. I don't think anyone's ever put a program like this together because I've been studying. Sorry, does
Phil,
someone need to say
let's talk
something?
about that. Let's talk about that towards the end, okay? And
No, this is the intro, Kathy.
oh, okay, okay.
This is
So,
the prelude
okay, I
for
apologize.
tonight's
One more
talk.
thing, is there a
Okay.
way your computer is moving around a lot? Is there a way to stabilize that just a little bit?
No, you know, now it's very fashionable to have that kind of handheld camera
Okay,
effect. I'm on a table now that's a little, I'll
okay,
try not to lean forward
okay,
to it.
okay,
Okay?
thanks.
All right. Because the reason I bring up what I'm going to be talking about on the weekend now is because the weekend has to do with success. The weekend has to do with maximizing and optimizing our lives. How can we make our lives better? Because it's true. Look at all of us. After all the CDs, the DVDs, the money, time, energy spent taking courses, workshops, seminars, retreats, making deals with God, How come many of us still haven't been able to manifest our dreams? Well, I found a system. I put together a system that I believe has the missing elements, and that's going to be Saturday and Sunday. I've isolated what I think are the primary blocks to manifesting true abundant prosperity. Why the talk tonight has to do with that? Because I believe success, part of success must be knowing to lead successful, fulfilling lives, to fulfill our soul contracts. It behooves us to know where we come from, what our true origins are, why we're here, and what we're here to do. That, to me, is true success. So this talk tonight, even though it's about ET contact, I believe it falls right in line with living a successful, fulfilled life. So we're going to start. I'm going to share the screen, okay, and hopefully that's going to work. All right. Can everybody see this here? No, I just got to get it on slideshow from the beginning. All right, can everybody see this?
Yes,
I am
perfect.
so happy. Okay, this is what I believe is happening on the planet now, and it's going to continue to happen until 2042, 2047. This is called a stellar activation cycle, or a stellar bridge, or is more commonly known as the shift of the ages or an ascension cycle. What is it? Finally, we know what it is. It's an alignment of interdimensional stargates. And later on, I'm going to actually show the map. It's called the Maps and Keys chart, and it shows all the interdimensional stargates. We call the interdimensional or interplanetary Templar. When you know where these gates are, everything really begins to make sense and fall into place. Now, when I say that there's a stellar bridge, all planets and all suns have at their cores stargates. What's a stargate? A stargate is basically a structure of energy that allows consciousness to travel from one dimension to another, or one universe or harmonic universe to another. A stargate is simply it's a black and white hole. Much like our chakras, there are sets of black and white holes. A lot of people think you go into a black hole you never heard from again. Best case scenario, it's a magnetic black hole. It's a contracting spiral or vortex. At the center, you change polarity and it becomes an electrical white hole, just like the dual chakras, just like the two cones of the chakras, forwards and back. Stargates are structures of energy that allow consciousness to move from one place to another. I mean, it's great if you want to take the scenic tour. You go sub light speed. Even light speed, we understand is like the scenic tour. When you understand the mechanism and the dynamics of stargates, we have an internal set of stargates too, and the planet has sets of stargates. That's why during these ascension cycles, everybody comes here. This is where the party is. Whatever your agenda is, and we'll just briefly talk about some primary agendas of interdimensional interstellar races. That's very important to understand. Everybody comes here now because the Earth is going through something that it goes through more or less every 26,000 years, okay? And it's been happening for a very, very long time. Our history, the history of our race goes back, and I'm not nowhere near joking, 950 billion years. We're talking about cycles of 950 billion years that we're going to get to in a minute. So the stellar bridge is an alignment of interdimensional stargates. All planets, all suns have at their core stargates. It starts with the Earth lining up with our sun lining up with the fifth dimensional stargate, which is in the Pleiades, the central sun of the Pleiadian system, Alcyone, then connects with the central sun of the Sirian system, then the Arcturian system, then the Orion system, then the Andromedan system, and then the three systems that we call the cradle of Lyra or Lyra. It'll make a lot more sense when I show a chart a little bit later on. But so frequencies, higher and higher dimensional frequencies, and when we talk about frequency, it's important to understand when we talk about energy or frequency, we're talking about consciousness. It's all, you can't talk about energy, you can't talk about frequency without talking about consciousness.
I'll bring it to
Okay.
you in a minute.
Rachel, can you mute yourself, please? Okay. Thank you very much. So progressively, the stellar bridge alignment, as you can read here, infuses Earth with progressively higher dimensional wave spectra, actually consciousness. We're talking about the major vortices or chakras on the planet. For the energy to come into the chakras, the frequency seals that keep the chakras closed have to progressively open. This is what John may be talking about in Revelation. Will the first be the last, and the seven seals? This is the opening of the seven seals. This is Earth, 7 primary vortices, their opening and closing schedule. You're going to get a lot out of this. 7 major chakras on the planet. So for the frequencies to come into the planet, to come into us, the chakras have to be opened, the frequency seals have to be released. The first of the major vortexes on the planet, a lot of people think it's Sedona. Sedona is a very powerful vortex, but it is a secondary vortex. Although it's very powerful, many of the Native American First Nations people out there, they know it's the Painted Desert in Arizona. Painted Desert. The reason they don't advertise it, because they don't want people littering the Painted Desert. I'm not saying they do that to Sedona to an extent, but they don't want, they just want the Painted Desert pretty much left alone. Painted Desert, now that started its opening cycle in 1987, 1988, timed with the harmonic convergence, okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit later, and also the harmonic concordance. So it's 1987, 1988. A lot of people think something called the Ark of the Covenant opened that we may get to a little bit later. Certainly we'll get to it on Wednesday. Painted Desert in Arizona, these are usually 4 years where the chakra opens. And when the chakra opens, then the frequency can come through that vortex and into the planetary grids and through our bodies. If the chakras, the vortexes don't open, the frequency is still going to, the energy is still going to come through the stargates and hit the planet. That can't come into the chakras and into the grids of the planet. Instead of expansion, you'll get major compaction. And as a result of this molecular compaction, you get really serious Earth changes in weather patterns, changes in our DNA, all sorts. This is what the solar maximum is all about in this sunspot cycle to a large extent. Second of the major vortexes on the planet, Jerusalem, Israel, which controls the emotional body, has a great effect on the emotional body of the planet. If you have control of the Jerusalem-Israel vortex, why is it so hotly contested for eons and eons? One of the reasons is because it's a major vortex on the planet, okay? Jerusalem-Israel started its opening cycle in 1992, 1996. It's fully opened in those 4 years. Third of the major vortexes on the planet, Himalayan mountains in Asia. I think it's the Kunlun mountain range north of Tibet, okay? I'd like to lead a group there in a few years. You have to get dropped in by helicopter. I just want to take a small group there, 10 or 2 weeks later, get helicoptered back out. And for that trip, you're going to have to sign a disclaimer. And I would really recommend that you get your business done before we go on this trip, because some of us probably won't be coming back, and it'll be a good thing. Himalayan mountains in Asia. Around January 2000, the fourth of the major vortexes, Giza, Egypt, opened. A lot of groups were going to Giza, Egypt around 2000. All these places, groups are being, have the feeling to go there. Some groups will go there. They know what they're doing and they help. Some groups are going there with the best intentions. They don't know what they're doing and they interfere with the chakras opening. Some groups are going there to mess with the opening of the chakras. They know what they're doing and that has to be dealt with. Some groups want to go and mess with it and they don't know what they're doing and they help. Helps to know what you're doing. When Giza, Egypt opened, the ascension cycle runs now, there's no turning back. So around 2000, this is it. It grounds, it anchors, and there's no turning back now. Now, Machu Picchu in Peru is the fifth, started its opening cycle around June 2004, timed with that Venus transit of June 2004. Interestingly enough, all these vortexes on the planet have sites on the planet that are paired with them. They're a paired site. The sites that's paired with Machu Picchu is the Vatican and Rome. And we know that on the weekend of the Venus transit, and the beginning of the opening of this vortex, Bush, his top advisors, a lot of the Bilderbergers and yada, yada, were at a site outside Rome. My theory is that they were pulsing magnetic pulses from the Vatican, from Rome, into Machu Picchu to interfere with the opening of the vortex. Again, when they don't open properly, you get massive compaction. The poles migrate. They're migrating right now every day. Worst case scenario, you get full pole reversal and everything on the planet is vaporized. Okay? Machu Picchu. 6 is Caucasus Mountains in Russia. We're going to talk about that one a little bit. Started its opening cycle in 2008, fully opened in 2012. And then the Andes Mountains, Lake Titicaca in South America, that's the 7th, 2012 to 2017. So again, this stellar bridge, this alignment of interdimensional stargates, has been infusing Earth with progressively higher, not just higher dimensional wave spectra, our higher selves. It's our higher conscious, our higher identities in the form of energy, frequency, consciousness coming in, causing the frequency seals, by the way, not just of Earth's 7 primary vortices, but our own internal stargates to progressively open. As each vortex opens, the dimensional wave spectra associated with that vortex begins running through Earth's electromagnetic fields in our bodies. What is this doing? It's progressively raising the particle pulsation rhythm on the planet. That's what's causing this feeling, this perception of time acceleration, creating literal biophysical time accelerations and what a lot of people are experiencing now, dimensional blending. If you don't know the context that these changes are happening through, you're not going to know, and you're going to think it's this. If you're thinking it's that, you'll be running to doctors, getting multiple personality type stuff. Dimensional blending, parallel selves are blending, multiple identities in time and space are blending now. It affects everything on the planet. So in areas where Earth's electromagnetic fields are out of balance, you're going to get this tectonic cracking, and what happens as a result of that. Okay, so that's based now. That's the opening cycle. Just as there is, whoops, we don't want that yet. Just as there was an opening cycle, the closing cycle is just as important. The chakras, the vortices had to open to allow the energy frequency to come in through the stellar bridge. They have to close on time. If they don't close on time, you'll get too much energy coming in, and the same thing will happen. Worst case scenario, full magnetic pole reversal, a lot of weird stuff on the planet. As you can see, the first to open, the last to open is the first to close. So this may be what John's talking about. Will the first be the last? He also could be talking about the papal succession, first pope, Peter being the last pope. Although I have something to say about that later that has to do with Mary Magdalene, probably more on Wednesday, the connection between the indigos and the what's called the Christed Grail Arthurian genetic lines and Mary Magdalene, to which a lot of us are connected with. Okay. Now, the Andes Mountains, Lake Titicaca, that vortex began to close in 2022. Well, guess what the next one that's in its closing phases? The Caucasus Mountains in Russia. Guess where many of the secondary vortexes are located? You got it, the Ukraine. When you know the location of these stargates and all these vortex points and what secondary and tertiary vortexes and universal stargates and planetary temporal, you realize that there is an agenda. It goes beyond the 3D stuff. It goes beyond the sex trafficking, the drugs and stuff like that. Earth has been the staging ground for interdimensional dramas that have been going on for millions and millions, if not billions of years, especially when there's a stargate, an ascension cycle happening. Because if you have control of the Earth's vortices, you have access to the interdimensional vortexes, stargates. So whatever your agenda is, if it's positive or negative, you haven't made up your mind, whoever has control of Earth stargates, especially during this period where they're opening naturally, and you don't have to use any really high-powered devices to force stargates opening, which they have done in the past, which have wreaked a lot of havoc on the planet, you need to know what's going on, okay? That's that. Now we get to something really cool. This is what I believe how consciousness dimensionalizes itself. It's called a time matrix. And if you're not familiar with this design, I will tell you every paradigm that's come before me, I've managed to reconcile with this one. If someone talks about 12 dimensions or 144 or 1728. I know what they're talking about. Here we have a time matrix. And this time matrix also has a parallel. So there are actually two. One is electrically based, one is magnetically based. But let's talk about one time matrix for now. You have 15 dimensions in a time matrix. Those 15 dimensions are grouped into three-dimensional universes called harmonic universes. So in a 15-dimensional time matrix, you have harmonic universe 1, that's dimensions 1, 2, and 3. That's where we are now. Harmonic universe 2, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Harmonic universe 3, dimensions 7, 8, and 9. Harmonic universe, 3, harmonic universe 4, dimensions 10, 11, and 12. Harmonic universe 5, dimensions 13, 14, and 15. What is a dimension? Dimension is a frequency band. What is a frequency band? What's a dimension once and for all? It's a frequency band. What does that mean? It's how frequently something is happening. It's a rhythm of particle pulsation. It's a vibration oscillation rhythm. Frequency is the number of oscillations in a given unit of time. So small ultra micro particles, the smallest units of consciousness, energy consciousness, they have different vibrational rhythms. If they oscillate faster, more oscillations in a given period of time, that's a higher frequency, a higher dimension. Actually, it's important to understand that the higher dimensions represent future time. So relative to where we are, what takes place in the higher dimensions happens in our future. The angels are our future. Angelics are our future selves. When the angels have past life therapy, who do you think it is they're contacting to make more sense of their lives in a higher universe? Us. We're the past lives of our future selves, and the angels are our future selves. We'll talk about past lives a little bit later, more in the Indigo talk, because I think a lot of people are mistaking past lives with simultaneous lives. And we'll talk about that, and actually we'll talk about that in a minute. So here we are right here. We're carbon-based because of the vibrational rhythms. The faster the rhythms, you will see there's molecular transmutation going on. When we get into higher and higher rhythms, we'll go from carbon to carbon silica-based biologies, then pure silica-based biologies, then liquid light, then pure light, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. So here we are in harmonic universe 1, dimensions 1, 2, and 3, okay? The first ascension is really to become fully embodied souls. How do we do that? It's all about the DNA. When you have strands 4, 5, and 6 fully activated, you are a fully embodied angelic. I would challenge anybody. This is not to diss anybody or to really challenge anybody, but if you're thinking of taking a DNA program like a weekend course to activate all your 144 strands, please. There's a lot to understand. It's a lot that's not understood about the DNA. Each strand of DNA is programmed for one dimension of consciousness. Each DNA strand, each double helix is programmed to process, to allow us to embody and express higher and higher dimensions of consciousness. Right now, we have 3 DNA strands worth of material already activated, or else we wouldn't have 3-dimensional consciousness. We wouldn't have consciousness of our physical, emotional, mental bodies. Now, there are distortions in that. Nobody has, that I know, has unified physical, emotional, and mental body consciousness, not to mention unified 3-dimensional consciousness. And that's the karmic miasmic blueprint. In order to ascend the right and proper way and the righteous way, we have to clear all remaining karmic miasmic residue of our first 3 DNA strands. When you've activated DNA strands 4, 5, and 6, you become a fully embodied angelic, what we call, this is the soul matrix, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. When you are an angelic, a fully embodied soul, with DNA strands 7, 8, and 9, you become a fully embodied oversolar archangel. Archangelic collective. We'll start here, and then we'll work our way up, and then work our way back down again. Okay? Angels, so souls, angels have 6 DNA strands fully activated. Archangels, oversouls, have 9 DNA strands activated. Avatars, fully Christed beings, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, have upwards of 12 DNA strands. Oh, by the way, the angels exist, their biologies are part carbon, part etheric silica, etheric crystal. Okay, the archangels, the oversouls, pure etheric. Their biologies, as we understand biology, is pure etheric crystal. Harmonic universe 4 dimensions 10, 11, and 12, liquid crystal, liquid light, pre-matter, hydroplasm. Keep that in mind. Liquid light, dimensions 13 and 14 and 15, these collectives of consciousness of pure radiation, pure beings of pure radiance, pure waveform consciousness. Many will call them the Rishi, 13, 14, and 15th dimensional consciousness. So now, in all these ascensions, in all these embodied, look at these as the my choice gadals. The most outward my choice gadal is the wholeness, and it's the wholeness subdividing itself, constantly subdividing itself into smaller and smaller identities to experience the wholeness. What happens when we fully remember ourselves, come into full wholeness and God consciousness? Well, then we fragment ourselves again and go back out into time. This is the game. You know, we're at that point now where the Great Mother has taken in everything for 950 billion years, letting it mix in within her, and she's ready to breathe out again. Why the Great Mother? Why not? That's the way I think it. It's the breathing rhythm of the cosmos. We worship the holy breath, which is placed higher than all other things. For lo, the eternal and sovereign space where rule the unnumbered stars is the air we breathe in and the air we breathe out. And in that magic moment betwixt the breathing in and the breathing out is hidden all the mysteries of the infinite garden. This is the Great Mother. So what happens when you're a fully embodied Rishi? If you get this, you get everything. The Rishi, again, is a huge collective or gestalt of pure living light, pure radiance. The Rishi will subdivide within itself, creating 12 smaller sections, projecting them down into the next harmonic universe as avatars. 12 avatars are part of a larger family of gestalt of consciousness, collective, called the Rishi. Each of those avatars. What do those 12 avatars do? Where's the cursor? Each of those 12 avatars now subdivide within themselves. Each avatar sends 12 smaller portions of itself, smaller identities in frequency, in consciousness, to harmonic universe 3 as something called oversouls or archangels. What do each of the archangels do? They subdivide themselves into smaller and smaller parts, sending 12 parts of themselves into harmonic universe 2 as souls or angels. What do the angels do? They continue to subdivide themselves into 12 smaller parts, projected down to our universe as us. So each one of us has at least 11 other simultaneous incarnations. We're members of soul families. It's possible that 2 or 3 of us could be members of the same soul family. That's serious soul, what's it called again? A soulmate action. Very, very, remember, there are multiple times in multiple worlds to incarnate into. Hopefully, I think we've all had choice. I don't think all human incarnates have that choice, but we have work to do down here. And so we're fortunate enough to have that choice. Not to say we can't make the wrong choice. I think I chose one of my parents wrongly. No one's perfect. So anyway, we have at least 11 other simultaneous incarnations in different time, space, locations, different coordinates. They're not our past lives. I'm not saying that there aren't those of us that have past lives. I have no resonance personally with past lives, only future lives, but there's a soul family of 12 simultaneous incarnations that are placed in different time, space, locations within this 3-dimensional universe. Again, different times, different worlds. So, and I'm doing this a little quickly, but you get the hang of it. This is not that difficult. It's like any information you hear for the first time. How do we learn? With repetition. And this information, I'll admit, it takes a little more to be purposefully dedicated, to give yourself the time and the patience to understand this work. I don't think there's any substitute. This teaches us. These are the freedom teachings. They teach us who we are, where we come from, what our true origins are, and what our purpose is. Now we're going to get to in just a minute. Okay, maybe we'll need 2 hours and 50 minutes. I don't know. And realize when I have a whole day to do this, I can do this at a much slower pace. And also, I get very, very excited about this information too. So you might ask, what happens when you embodied, reintegrated with your soul identity, oversoul, avatar, Rishi consciousness? What happens then? You actually unplug yourself a little bit. You go lower in frequency. You go out through the eighth dimension. It's called the meta-galactic core. And this is one of the reasons our Earth is so prized and so valued during ascension cycles. Earth has gates, portals that you can directly access the metagalactic core at the eighth dimension. That's the lower Akasha. Its consciousness comes into a time matrix through the eighth dimension. We see the Orion system. I think it's the star Mintaka. And consciousness ultimately exits, expands out of a time matrix into cosmic fields of vibrational sound. These are the ascended masters level. So what does the Rishi do again? It unplugs some of itself, unplugs or deactivates some of its DNA, so it can go out through the eighth dimensional metagalactic core and expands into 3 very special levels of, this is where consciousness, remember in a time matrix, consciousness is dimensionalized. And these are all calibrations of light: living light, liquid light, etheric, semi-etheric, carbon. Well, you expand into 3 very special levels that we call ascended mastery. Okay, the first expansion into cosmic sound is the triadic level or the violet flame level. The next expansion into greater, more expanded fields of cosmic sound vibration, the polaric or the gold level. And the final expansion into ascended mastery is the Akkadic or the blue-green or emerald level. And then what happens then? You go back out into fragmentation again as God's holy sparks, only to remember ourselves again. It's the play, it's the dance. It's the dance of the cosmos. Now, so here we have individual cellular consciousness. We're having trouble even navigating one timeline, one time vector. A soul identity or angelic has a sense of itself as a species. Like a lot of the indigos, they communicate on the grid. Archangelics or oversouls have a planetary memory consciousness. They know themselves as planet. That's the lower Akasha. Avatars have a galactic they know them, you're expanding now, you know yourself as galaxy. 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions. Harmonic Universe 5, you have universal consciousness. The Ascended Masters, most of which we're familiar with from the violet flame level, maybe a few gold level, polaric levels. The Akkadic levels, I don't even know if we can conceive of them. But remember, we're a part of them. We exist simultaneously. All these different identities, the masters, the rishis, the avatars, the oversoul, the souls in us, we exist all here and now, but in different time space coordinates. We are part of the wholeness. If anything, this will remind us not that we're separated, but that we are all one. This reminds us that we are all one. Okay? So now, as an introduction, and we'll start to take questions in about 15 minutes. Now let's talk about where this information comes from. A race called the Brennau. Okay, I'll go back and stop sharing now. There's a race, the race is called the Brennau. These are rishis. These are 15th dimensional consciousness. There are 3 major of these Brennau. Tricia McKinnon has been in communication with the Brennau for many, many years. But the Brennau or the Brennaua, these are huge collectives, again, of living light consciousness, pure radiation, pure living light. 950 billion years ago, they decide, however they decide, that life would be allowed to evolve within our time matrix, hopefully under the law of one, hopefully cooperatively and co-creatively evolve. That original covenant that the Brennau came up with, agreed upon, we know as the Emerald Covenant. When you understand that the Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, was a confirmed theosophist, that in 1892, him and his wife joined the Ramayana Theosophical sect in Chicago, Illinois. When you read The Wizard of Oz, I mean, the movie is amazing as it is, because a lot of great occultists and metaphysicians and whatnot came over to the United States from Germany when Hitler's coming into power. There's a lot in the movie that's pretty cosmic, but the book is amazing. And by the way, in the book, it's not ruby slippers. If you're familiar with the Wizard of Oz book, they are silver. And that's something we're going to talk about at the very, very end, that there's something below our feet, a huge disc made of silver liquid light, how we can access our Christed identities. It's called the Maharic Shield and the Maharic Seal. Well, it's going to be a big part. It's a big part of our private mentorship programs, and it's going to be a big part of that weekend. Because even though we're going to be talking about success and wealth attainment and peak performance and maximum optimization, blah, 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 that seventh module is this work. To be truly successful, again, I believe we have to understand who we are. Aren't these the most pertinent and perplexing questions we've asked ourselves? And it's never too late. Like Tom Robbins said, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. It's never too late to learn this information. And this is the information that will set us free. People are normally born into biological phase lock, and we're not meant to continue this being born into the prisons of our own collective unconsciousness, or willing or unwilling naivete or ignorance, or just not wanting to know the truth of really who we are, where we come from, and what we're here to do. 950 billion years ago, the Brenau decided. There are founders' races in this time matrix. There's a long time till the human being was created. These are our founders' races. There were three types of Brenau. There was an emerald order, a gold order, and an amethyst order. The emerald order we call the Elohai Elohim. Again, these are the three Brenau founders' races. There are the emerald order called the Elohai Elohim, the gold order, the Seraphai Seraphim, and an amethyst order called the Braharama. I'm not going to use a lot of these terms, but they're very important because, again, in our search to know who we are and where we come from, all that information is contained within our DNA. The entire evolutionary path of human consciousness, the memory is still there. It's blocked by our karma, our miasmic body, but there are ways to clear that. The memory will come back. Have you ever noticed how a lot of channelers, interdimensional channelers, they're beginning to sound very similar? There's a little sort of Native American, First Nations kind of affect, accent, and there's a little sort of Asian Oriental language. Well, it makes perfect sense to me, because the first languages we're going to be channeling are the ones that are closest to us genetically. As our fourth and fifth and sixth strands begin to activate, the Pleiadian memories will come, the Sirian memories, the Arcturian memories. So it isn't like someone will say, oh, I know I'm Pleiadian. Well, of course, we are Pleiadian. We have identities in the Pleiades, in the fifth dimension. We have identities in Sirius. We have identities in Arcturus in the seventh dimension. We have identities in Orion, in Andromeda, in Lyra. But as our DNA continues to activate the proper way, progressively, we're going to come into the memory. The memory is going to be wide open of all that we are, or more of who we are. We have identities in all these universes, in all these dimensions. You just know you're getting Pleiadian memories now, or Atlantean memories, or Lemurian memories. That's your level of DNA activation. There's a lot of DNA we have. All of us, I'm sure, all of us that are on this call right now, we came in with at least the 12-strand DNA pattern that the original angelic human race was given. Why 12 strands? To become fully embodied avatars in one immortal lifetime. Many of us have even greater, more expanded genetic templates, 12 to 24 strands, 24 to 48 strands. More about that on Wednesday. I hope to see a lot of you there. We're getting down to it now. So the amethyst order, these are the three Brenau orders. They're fifth density, pure light fields, dimension 13, 14, and 15. And by the way, that 14th dimension is the Ra, when Casey talked about the Ra collective, 13, 14, and 15 dimensions, we call them the Ki Ra She, these pure light fields. So we understand the Ra collective as a 14th dimensional composite or gestalt of consciousness. 950 billion years ago. Now I'm going to jump ahead to about 250 million years ago. The Brennau gave our race, during what's called the third seeding of the human race, a very special gift. And this is where this information comes from. It's very important to share this. The gift was a set of 12 holographic discs. They're known by many names. We know them as the Dora Torah, DORA hyphen TEURA. 12 holographic discs that you could access 950 billion years of information, ascension mechanics, the true history of our race, everything, 950 billion years of history of ascension mechanics, you name it. And there have been beings that have been designated or contracted throughout time to translate portions of the Dora Torah or the eternal Dora Torah or the cloister Dora Torah. H.G. Wells knew a little bit about this because in the Time Machine, in the 1960 version of the Time Machine with Rod Taylor and Yvette Mimieux, you can get this on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, Time Machine Talking Rings. There's a scene where Yvette Mimieux, she's Weena, one of the Eloi, takes Rod Taylor into this cave where you have all these books that turn into dust and all these strange devices, probably interdimensional tools. But she introduces him to the talking rings. You spin these rings and you get these audio downloads of Earth's history. H.G. Wells, of course, they were all Jules Verne, they were all initiates. So I'm sure he knew about the Dora Torah plates. When you go to where are these repositories now? Usually under monasteries. I've tried to get into the Vatican archives for years, but it doesn't matter because I've seen repositories of translations of these Dora Torah plates in the Mideast or the Far East, in the Himalayas, that dwarf, make the Vatican archives look like your neighborhood library. Greg Braden used to show some photographs of these. These are huge caves. They go for miles, multiple levels of translations of the Dora Torah, millions and millions of books, generations of monks, one generation after another, refining, learning the techniques. We teach them in the mentorship. It takes time. Remember, this information we're being given, it used to take lifetimes to learn these ascension mechanics. And you had to learn a lot before you were even worthy. We're given this information now, hoping that we're going to use them. Hopefully that we're going to be a pure and dedicated and sincere service to ourselves and the world. That's why the Indigos, that's why we came in the first place. We're the latest restatement of this Emerald Covenant. We've come in to really help to facilitate the ascension of the planet and everybody on it. Of course, there are alternate plans if that doesn't work that we learn about also, but these Dora Torah plates, okay? All this information comes from downloads and translations of these Dora Torah. And how does that happen? A lot of us are getting information. A lot of us are downloading information. A lot of us, when the memory comes back of when a lot of us were children on ships, my memory's starting to come back. I haven't a lot of physical contact. Of course, Anna has had consensual physical contact since childhood. Her training was much more rigorous and vigorous than mine. But we learn how to access digitally stored information. The data, and a lot of us get this, they're like emails that are sent to us and they open progressively, which is the thought of wanting to open it. The data translates into electrical impulse, chemically through our hormones, translates into sounds, images, language. If your forte is art or poetry or music, that's how it's going to come. See, channeling, as we understand it, usually involves a merging of consciousness through a direct link, right? Deep trance channeling usually involves a displacement of the host consciousness with an independent entity, let's say. Conscious channeling is not a disassociated state. It's like direct telepathy. But the thing is, this communication that we get called chelantic communication. It's very natural. It's a biopsychological facility within our bodies. Telepathy involves live communication. What we get is implantation of codes, okay? The transfer involves pre-record. This is how a lot of us are getting it. Now we understand the process on a cellular level. The transfer of the information that we're getting involves pre-recorded messages, digitally programmed into symbol codes, which is what chelantic science is about, electrically implanted within the bioelectric circuits of the body. Remember, all languages, even what I'm speaking now, all languages, whether they're written, spoken, toned, whatever, music, is going to translate into electrical impulse. So this transfer of pre-recorded messages is digitally programmed into symbol codes, usually geometrical, very complex geometrical codes that are electrically implanted within the bioelectrical circuits of our bodies. These communications are stored within our cellular structure as electromagnetic light and sound patterns, usually during the dream state. By the way, a lot of this communication usually happens in the dream state. That's why it's important to be awake and aware in the dream state, because when our consciousness detaches and it goes into the dream state, we're actually going into our future. The trick is what we bring back from the future to use here. This is why we need to be conscious in the dream state. We need to be conscious lucid dreaming and be able to awaken with full memory. And there's affirmations we can do. At the end, I'll share some with you. Usually in the dream state is a very safe place for us to meet our higher selves. With us, it's a place we naturally go when we sleep, into the dream state, to a fourth dimensional sort of level. And for the higher selves, it's all they have to do is just lower themselves in frequency to meet us there. It's very safe for angels and higher beings to come into full embodiment on this planet in 3D. That's very risky. There's a lot of trapped angels down here. For all I know, some of us could be some of those trapped angels. A lot of us coming through walking agreements. We'll talk about that a lot on Wednesday, okay? When activated, you can access it purely by the thought, but very specific thoughts. The cells transfer the data into the DNA, and this is the key. It's the DNA, it's in the DNA that it undergoes the translation. The DNA are translation devices. The final translation is done through the DNA. DNA are transducers and translators of consciousness. So here we go, take a breath. Let's talk about where we come from, okay? By the way, it's a very good idea to drink water, sip water, because again, consciousness is electrical in nature. If you're not properly hydrated, you'll short out. So it's very, very important, and to drink structured water. But I'll tell you, you can structure water with thoughts. You know, the most beautiful Ebimoto's crystals are just projecting thoughts of forgiveness and gratitude. The reason that crystal can hold and radiate so much light is because of its geometrical structure. So now I put it to you, what if we become the living embodiments and we practice forgiveness and gratitude on a moment by moment basis? Then every crystal and microcrystal in our bodies will be able to hold and radiate that light. No karma can withstand that in our world. And we become what Jesus referred to the Magdalens as having the effulgence of light. You don't have to study Reiki or electromagnetic healing. You become a healer by your presence alone. By your presence alone, you illuminate all the darkest spaces in the world. You become a presence healer. So here we go. Why are humans in conflict and why are we being contacted now? This is very important. First, I'll talk a little about the creation of the angelic race. Then I'll talk about why we're being chosen for contact now. The original human design, it's very important to understand that we're doing very good on time, by the way. The original human design itself is of extraterrestrial or angelic nature, in that humans, the human race, originally inhabited that second density, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. The second, we didn't start here. We started on a planet that many of us know as Tara, T-A-R-A. Some people call this world heaven, a fifth dimensional version of Earth, a future version of Earth. Remember, what exists in the higher dimensions exists in our future. Where Earth is called Tara, it's a fifth dimensional version of Earth. There's also an eighth dimensional version of Earth. That name is Gaia. Now, Gaia, of course, Gaia can represent our Earth and the Earth body and as we understand it. But actually, technically, Gaia is the eighth dimensional version of Earth. The original Terran human is called the Turanusium, T-U-R-A-N-E-U-S-A-I-M. And the reason I could believe me, I could just blow your mind with all these terms. And the reason I use a lot of them is because remember, I see before the DNA holds the memory. Just by saying some of the names of these races and these sub-races and founders races, you resonate with them. It'll resonate your heartstrings and your strings of your DNA. You'll have a jump ahead, a leg up where you may come from, you know? So this is why I will mention a lot of these names. I'll mention more of them on Wednesday. I'll mention even a few of them tonight. But the Turanusium is the original angelic human. And the truth is that our stellar heritage, our true genetic heritage, is to be found in the DNA, what we call the substrands, right? They're minute electrotonal or scalar standing wave template. And these scalar waves make up the grid, the human DNA, our blueprint. The blueprint for our DNA. Yes, DNA is a mechanism to transfer traits, heredity, but that's not the original major function of our DNA. If you will yourself or unwill yourself to have to experience multiple cycles of incarnation because of karma that you haven't resolved or cleared, yes, DNA can transfer traits intergenerationally, blah, blah, blah. But the original function of the DNA is the mechanism of ascension. DNA is what we use to ascend. When the helixes fuse together, when all the electromagnetic codes are in balance and the helical structure is intact, the strands will fuse, the helixes will fuse. Then the strands will fuse, and that creates this fusion, this fission-fusion process where amazing chemicals, ascension chemicals, are generated in the body. Hyperluminal, superluminal elements, blue star fire, blue photonic light. Again, when the helixes fuse, when the strands merge, strands can merge when they're in polarity, when you have so much karma that it keeps the helixes and the strands in opposition to each other, they can't merge. It also deforms the helix. You can't have them fusing. When the strands fuse, it produces beautiful blue photonic light, again, known in some traditions as blue star fire, sacred ambrosia. The Magdalens were very good at that. The Magdalens could actually generate that within their own bodies. The Marys, why? Because they were hybrids of earth human and Nephilim, fallen angelics. They were called the Raphaim. This is why the Benjamin tribe was like all the other tribes, the Israel tribes. For the 11 other tribes, the Benjamins are the abominations because they're the hybridization of your human females and Nephilim. But given the fact that they were hybrids of angels and earth human, they had expanded genetic codes. So they could, these sacred priestesses, these sacred hierodules, the reason they were chosen to be these sacred priestesses were because they had these expanded genetic codes where they could generate within their own bodies these special secretions. When this blue photonic light is created and it courses through the body, it raises the frequency of all the particles in the body, and then you can shift. Then you can, it's part of the ascension process and the building of the Merkaba vehicle stage by stage. So in the earth human lineage, known by many as the Adam Kadmon or the Adumi Kudmon, there were 7 root races First was the Hyperborean and the Polarian, and then we get the Lemurian, the Atlantean. We're in the latter stages of the Aryan, the fifth root race cycle. Certainly a race of masters, but certainly not the master race. I talk a lot about it. I'll probably do a webinar on Hitler and the occult, probably maybe a month, 2 months from now. It's amazing information on Hitler's initiatory process and what he really believed. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So we're in the latter stages of the fifth root race cycle, the Aryan. We indigos represent, again, another restatement of this Emerald Covenant, where it's hoping that our race would be allowed, all races in time and space would be allowed to evolve cooperatively and co-creatively. The sixth and seventh root races are known by many names: the Paradisians, the Melchizedeks. Remember, there's no direct, the meek will inherit the earth. There's no direct translation of the word meek in the Hebrew Canaanite Aramaic. Meek is an acronym, Me-ek, Melchizedek. You see, the earth is our legacy. The earth is our, what's that word? It's being bequeathed to us. The Melchizedek, it is our inheritance, because we are the final root races coming in to finally fulfill the potentials held within our DNA. Now, there were 7 root races and 5 what we call cloister races, the original 12 tribes. The root race evolutionary cycle developed one of the first 5 strands of DNA within the 12-strand DNA template. The cloister races, of which we are embodiments of, we carried originally the 7th through the 12th strand template corresponding to the higher dimensional density systems. If you're an incarnate of a root race, you are called an earth seed. We now know the difference between earth seeds and star seeds. The cloister race incarnates, we indigos, and there are many different levels of indigos, we are known as star seeds. And it is we, the indigos, we have kept the 12-strand DNA template potential alive within the Earth human gene pool. During Jesus's time, he tried it, got a lot of work done, but I think the higher agenda, understand that when you come into incarnation on this planet, you come from a higher dimensional universe, you go through sets of interdimensional stargates. When it comes to the Earth, you go through the core of the Earth. It's a huge interdimensional stargate. Some people call it the sphere of Amenti or the flame of Amenti. After you go through that stargate, you leave impressions of your DNA at the core of the Earth. And then you go through one of the 2 stargates, which correspond to the stargate you originated from. I'll give you an example. Does anybody here see the 1111 on the clock a lot? This is my personal theory of why we see 1111 a lot. I believe personally, and I believe a lot of us have started this incarnational journey from the 11th dimension. That's in the Lyran system. 11th dimensional Lyra, again, free matter, hydroplasm, liquid light. 11th dimensional Lyra or Lyra used to be known as Avion, a planet called Avion. Well, through mistranslation, guess what that became? Avalon. Avalon. The mists of Avalon are the pre-matter hydroplasmic liquid light levels of Lyra. I believe personally, and if this vibes with you, more power to you. I believe I started this incarnational journey not from past lives, from the 11th dimension, through the stargates, went through the core of the Earth, left an impression of my DNA, and then went through the 2 gates on the planet that correspond to the 11th dimension. And those are located in the Vale of Pusey in England, the Vale of Pusey, where a lot of the crop circles are, most of them, I think, to facilitate transit. And the Isle of Eye, a small little island off the coast of Ireland. And then you come at the moment of conception, when you come into that Christo spark into the first cell. So when that clock flips to 1111, it gets our attention, because we came from the 11th dimension and we came from through the 11th dimensional stargate. If you see 1212 on the clock, That's something even different. You may come from 12th dimensional era, which we understand as a place called Aramitana. And if you come from this place, just the vibration, remember the words, the letters are wave patterns. And if these scalar wave patterns, these very specific configurations of wave patterns match what's in your DNA, you're going to know it. The hairs will, that the least thing that'll happen is that the hairs on your neck will stand up. You may go into just spontaneous satori, temporarily, or if you can hold that, God bless you. That's why I mention a lot of these names. Understand that our history is complex. We're talking about 950 billion years of history. How can you simplify that to the point of it being oversimplified? This is information we need to learn now. This is, again, learning where we come from and why we're here and where we've come all the way down, come all the way back, right? So star seeds. Now, when Jesus came, he left an imprint of his DNA, but I don't think that agenda was fully realized. It took the indigos coming in, a certain critical number of indigos coming into embodiment on this planet that now and leaving imprints of our DNA, right? That 12-strand pattern at the core of the earth. Now I think all incoming souls and everybody on the planet has those same potentials that we had, which is that 12-strand pattern we call the silicate matrix. That enables one to evolve to full avatar embodiment. And the avatars are still continuing their evolution into their Rishi collectives, ascended master collectives, monadic collectives at full enlightenment, okay? So the cloister race, our human 12-strand DNA is known as the diamond sun DNA. And if you have that diamond sun 12-strand pattern, you have probably entered from either from the 10th to the 12th dimensions. You've come from either 10th, 11th, or 12th dimension here. Incarnations, if you're an incarnation of a root race biology, you're probably coming through the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th dimensions. Indigos are called indigos because clairvoyants and psychics, they may have started to notice them in the 70s, but we've been coming in dribs and drabs for hundreds of years because the planetary grids couldn't withstand. If we started coming in great numbers before the Earth was ready to handle our frequency, the Earth would have gone through really heavy changes. But now, I think we've really opened the door for lots of high conscious to come in, I think was alluded to earlier. And if you're a root race incarnate, you certainly have the genetic potential. You have the potential to receive genetic acceleration through certain technologies that we and others teach. And understand that through the course of human history, there has been lots of hybridization with many interstellar races, creating lots of varieties of star seeds among the populations. And at various times in our Earth human history and evolution, certain families of humans, cloister race humans, the ones that held the higher DNA, were further genetically enhanced through hybridization of even higher dimensional races we call seed races. There are kind of fathers and mothers, not the real elder races, the founders races, the Brennau of the 13th, 14th, 15th dimensions, but there was a seed race out of which the original angelic Tyrannusium human lineage emerged. And the seed race, the ones that contributed their DNA to the creation of the original Tyrannusium or angelic human, was called the Oraphim, the Oraphim. And the Oraphim is a composite genetic code of Syrians, Syrian Azurites, Syrian blues, blue Syrians from the 2nd density around 5th, 6th dimension. Another race called the Lyran Syrian Anuhazi from the 3rd density. These are oversouls or archangels. These are feline hominids, feline. Many of us are already in contact, either here or there, with feline hominids, okay? Race called the Elohai Emerald Order from the fourth density, dimensions 10, 11, and 12, and the founder's race, Brennau. So the human cloister orifeme hybrid is known as the Emerald Order or the Emerald Suns. When we talk about suns, we're talking about certain DNA template. There's a lot we can talk about here, but there again, we'll talk about more about this with Indigo, the different classifications of the Emerald Orders, this order, that order, all the different suns, the different genetic templates, because you, in hearing this, it gives you a leg up in identifying where your roots are, where your true roots are. Just so you know, there was this, and these are called, by the way, just so you know, the Emerald Order orifeme has a 24 to 48 strand potential. Okay, it contains the original 12-strand human DNA template plus additional coding, and it's called the Emerald Sun DNA. And these are the primary, what's called the Grail or the Holy Grail lines, those that carry the Holy Grail or the DNA template design that fully activated could transmute you fully out of matter and hold what's called ultra-terrestrial consciousness, which means beyond time, which means ascended master consciousness, while you're in embodiment. Some of these little children have it. You can see it on their faces, mastership, but they don't have the ability to speak yet. They can telepath stuff to us. You ever been close to a baby and your mind just reels? And I think the reason so many of these little babies, they look so pained, that expression, because they're consciously beginning to remember that they're beginning to forget. As the parental karma kicks in, you birth in fully conscious. Can you imagine? But then you're conscious and aware enough to remember that you're beginning to forget, and you start to cry. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, you know, but I think that's one of the primary reasons. So these are called the Holy Grail lines, and this is where it connects with the Magdalene lines and the lines of Mary's and stuff like that, the Christed Grail lines. But understand that there was a secondary Grail line that emerged within the Earth human populations about 248,000 years ago through hybridization with a race called the Nephilim. And the Nephilim is a hybrid race of humans from previous seedings. When we talk about seedings, we're talking about how humans with different genetic potentials were seeded on the planet to ultimately fulfill the potentials of our full genetic code. Nephilim race is a hybrid race of humans from previous Earth seedings combined with Assyrian Anunnaki race strains. Many of the Anunnaki we talk about in the Nephilim, they're Pleiadian Syrian Anunnaki. Pleiadian Syrian Anunnaki. Nephilim race biology, if you're an incarnate of the Nephilim race, you normally have a genetic potential of 9 through 11 strands. And there are lots of names for those, but we'll talk about that later. And by the way, and if you really, really want to get into this, I would recommend contacting me. I can send you information about the mentorship programs we do. That's 6 months, a year, 2 years. That's one call a week. If you really want to get into the real nitty gritty of this, it's a personal one-on-one mentorship program where we work one-on-one. And then after a while, you can join the Ascension group that meets once a week, where we do the really heavy stuff, the flame body activations, the real heavy shadow stuff, the real true Ascension mechanics. Okay? I'll take a few questions right now, and then I want to get more into the contact phenomenon, why we're being contacted and by who. Okay? So there was a lot I left about the different DNA templates, what they're called, emerald suns, ruby suns, black suns. I would like to talk about that a little bit later, just to talk about the 3 primary agendas, because all of us are either hybrids of one of these 3 major players, either an emerald or a diamond sun DNA, a ruby sun DNA, or a black sun DNA. It's very good to know where you stand with this. It can really change or alter the trajectories of your life. So if you have any questions, how should we do this? Ross, you're gonna.
Yeah. All right. So,
Okay.
all right. Someone raise your hand, please. If you have a question, raise your hand. There is Paul. Paul, you're the first one. Come and get it. Paul, unmute yourself.
Okay, this is so deep for me that I've got to ask a question that I may have already had when I walked in here. We're currently being blasted by X-class CMEs right now.
Right now.
Do these modulate portals, and is new information becoming available to those of us who are resonant with those frequencies?
Absolutely, positively. All this is happening for a reason. Yes, these chakras, these gates, the stargates, the portals, they need constant modulation and remodulation because there are efforts about to mess with them, you know, to mess with their timing. And so yes, and they need to be, what's the word? I can't think of it right now. They need to be recalibrated almost all the time. And luckily there are incarnates and races that are giving us the guidance to be able to do that. And I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because if you know what your contract is, if you know who you're in touch with, if you can get that guidance clearly, and if it can get integrated within you, that's mainly a result of doing the work to clear the karma and to carry yourself, understand the attitudes and etiquette of spiritual mastery. Then the information coming in as it's filtered through our DNA can come in very clearly. And then we can be of highest service. Because if we can't channel it in clearly, then it's lost on us. And if it's lost on us and we have a contract for world service, it's not going to be of any benefit to the world. So yes, these different classes are meant to modulate it. Yeah. Modulate the opening and closing of the vortexes.
Some people are recognizing that these ley lines or energy lines or information lines around the earth are expanding right now and undulating, and something is happening. My question, I guess, to carry on here is it useful to find these vortices to become more aligned with what's flowing to get a more complete download?
Yes, you're on the beam, Paul, because all that you're anticipating all the things I'm going to talk about in this next half. Yes, the axiatonal lines of the planet. The ley lines are what we call the axiatonal lines. We have the same setup. It's a deeper meridian. I've been an acupuncturist for 40 years. It wasn't until I got to China that I realized there were all these big chunks taken out of the Yellow Emperor's classics of it, all the internal medicine. I saw libraries full of classics of internal medicine. They took out deeper and deeper grids. The meridians should be accessing much, much deeper grids, a grid called the axiatonal system, which were 12 vertical lines of force that run up and down the body. They look like the meridians, but the very deeper system, but they have a synchronized rotation. So do the ley lines on our planet. And where they cross each other, where polarized electromagnetic lines of energy cross, you create a vortex or what we call a diotic point. And so since we're so intimately connected with the ley lines of the planet, to get the information clearly, we have to clear all the blockages out of our, what we call the chakras, the meiotic, diotic points, all the inner Templar, the stargates within our own body. We need to be constantly recalibrated. Things are in flux from a lot of very different source that you mentioned. So we need to be very, very aware. And the more aware we get, if you know the laws of energy and the laws of physics and metaphysics, then you're going to know what's happening. You're going to have a much more expanded, elevated point of view and perspective, and you'll be able to be more effective as a facilitator or a healer or anybody that's been contracted to come to the planet now to do this work. So I want to thank you for that question because it leads into what we're going to be talking about next, Paul.
Yeah,
okay?
well, I'll mute myself by thanking you.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that.
Thanking you for hopefully activating something within me, because I'm not consciously getting 0.1%, but I'd like to still imagine that vibration is still being awakened. So thank you very much.
Trust me, Paul. Trust me, everybody. You're getting a lot, and you are getting a lot. Nobody expects, least of all me, for anybody to remember everything that I'm taught, unless you're some high-functioning autistic savant, which I happen to be. But the whole idea is you never remember anything. As long as you get the sense that we have this complex, beautiful history full of triumphs, tragedies, love, pain, billions and billions, hundreds of billions of years of history. We have a lot of that information. Again, it's to help us understand who we are and what we're meant to do here, to be consciously aware of that. So even though you may not think you're getting it consciously, you're getting it. I promise you, you're getting it. Okay.
Anybody else?
Next?
Anybody else?
Because we're going to get into some really interesting stuff now about ET contact.
All right. I guess.
Okay. That's okay.
Another one? Okay.
Nice.
All right. Oh, yeah. Janet. Let's hear from Janet.
Okay, we'll hear from Janet, and then we'll go to the next part. And by the way, at the end of this, I'm going to be doing a process, Ross and everybody, a process to facilitate contact. So it's just not the information. To realize that all my classes are technique driven and technique oriented. And realize also, Ross and everybody else, Kathy, the information is activating. The information is the initiation, because remember, all language, the electrical impulse, the mathematical programming that the language is, the wave patterns will open up gates within you.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to be conscious of the process.
Once the subconscious, our subconscious hears it, it cannot be unheard. So it processes and it assembles itself.
And guess what, Ross? I'm going to be sharing something on that weekend, something that I honestly had never, ever seen taught openly, as far as wealth attainment, success, peak performance, and it is the information about the solar plexus. You see this little pamphlet here that was written in 1918 by one of the original authors of the Law of Attraction, William Walker Atkinson, published this under a pseudonym because I guess he wasn't allowed to publish this information under his real name. Theron Q. Dumont. This is the solar plexus of the abdominal brain. The solar plexus is the gateway to the subconscious. NLP and all that stuff is great, but it's only temporary. You know how it's what you want to manifest, create abundance, prosperity, you have to feel it? Well, the solar plexus is in charge of the physical expression of our emotions. If you want to access the depth of emotion needed to truly create and recreate and manifest abundance, you've got to work with the solar plexus.
Yes,
and
third
to my
chakra.
knowledge, I have not seen this taught, certainly not to the depth that we're going to talk about it on the weekend. And I will give everybody the links. I will teach the basic solar plexus breath and a lot more stuff. The solar plexus is the key. The missing key, one of four missing keys. So
Janet,
that's all going to be taught. Janet, yes?
Janet, unmute yourself, please.
Oh, this is so much fun. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I'm wondering, now when I do meditation, I see things. It's like seeing a movie in my head. I don't think about it. You know, I don't know what I'm going to see when I do a meditation. It just comes. So this time, this recent one, I was presented a crystal skull. I've never been reading about crystal skulls, or so how do they figure in?
I'm not the expert on the crystal skulls, but I'll tell you what I do believe. I believe they never should have been taken from where they were put. I think they hold a lot of the memory. I think there are 12 primary skulls that hold the information from the 12 Torah plates, that somehow it was transferred to these crystal skulls and they were meant to be placeholders. I don't think they should ever be taken out of where they were put. They were put there for reasons to hold the grid steady and also to be transmitters of information. I know there's going to be a crystal skull conference. Star Fuentes, if you're familiar with her, I think she's going to be doing, I think they were supposed to do one through the portal to Ascension, Neil Gower, and I think they're going to do another one. I've seen a couple of the skulls, and I don't know too much about them except the Indiana Jones and the crystal skulls. No, but
Yeah, well, this one I understood it was the 13th crystal skull.
Well, I think that you put all the 13th again it has to do with the emissaries of light, the circle, the 13th skull in the middle, or the emissary of light, or the Knights of the Round Table, the circle of Marys. I would have to do with groupings of 12 angelics with one in the middle, and they transmit electromagnetic codes, symbol codes, geometrical stuff to the one in the middle. It becomes a fountain of divine light. When the first time I was in Boulder, actually, is when I met Jimmy James Twyman and brought him to New York to do one of the first emissary workshops with the emissary wheel. We're actually going to talk about that a lot more, because I believe a lot of us are here to do what they call these rainbow roundtables, which is, and what we're really transmitting to the one in the center is the names of the original 12 tribes. And those are very, very powerful organizations of scalar electromagnetic frequency. And it's to bring peace to the world, it's to bring peace to the planet, it's to stabilize the grids and to open up all the portals, and it's amazingly complex, beautiful science. And I think, Janet, the fact that you did it without thinking is probably better. Better not to get your mind into it or expect this or that. So yeah, just did you have a follow-up question with that? So yeah.
No, Adam, I've never been that interested in them. I was really surprised to be presented with the 13th skull in my meditation. I thought, well, So anyway, I do appreciate all this information, though. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, we'll have more questions later, but now I want to talk about why and how humans are chosen, how we're chosen to be contacted. Because the truth is that about 90% of all contemporary Earth human visitor contactees and abductees, they're chosen because they're members of one of three primary ancient hybrid human starseed race lines. Again, I'll repeat this. About 90% of all contemporary Earth human visitor contactees and abductees, positive or negative abduction, were chosen because we're members of one of three primary ancient hybrid human starseed race lines, not Earth seeds, star seeds. The Grail lines that we call the Emerald, Diamond, and Ruby Sun DNA templates. The second one is called the Anu Elohim. It's called the Belial Sun DNA template, or the Beli Kudium, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the Black Sun DNA. So you have basically a diamond sun, a ruby sun, and a black sun. The Black Sun is the Nephidim reptilian DNA template. Presently, Earthseed root race humans, we're in our fifth root race Aryan cycle, in which the fourth DNA strand template begins activation. What does that do? It opens up perception into the higher dimensional time fields. It's a good question, because how do you know when your DNA strands are activating? How do you know when your higher strands are activating? One of the first ways you're going to know it, you're going to have more lucid conscious dreaming, more wakefulness in the dream state. You'll be able to bring back more information when you wake up, and you'll begin to have perception of higher dimensional fields. Yes, your 6 and 7 senses, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience is going to be that much amplified. But you look out your window one day where there's a Burger King across the street, and now there's a crystal Burger King, or a fifth or a seventh dimensional Burger King. And this could be very disturbing for some people, because they're going to think they're going crazy. Seeing things, hearing things, dimensional bleed through, simultaneous carnations, parallel lives. If you don't understand the context, people are going to be running to doctors, thinking they're going crazy, multiple personality disorder, when it's multidimensional identity integration. And the way it will be integrated the proper way is to understand the true nature of karma, how we can conduct ourselves that we don't bring any new karma in, and heal the karma which is presently blocking our DNA. And the most effective ways I've seen in this life to clear all residual karma is practicing forgiveness and gratitude. Nothing can withstand and forgiveness and gratitude. And just as a side, people will say, well, how do you forgive? Because it has nothing to do with blame. The Pistis Sophia explains it very, very clearly. To forgive is about giving. How can you be a channel for grace to come into this world? How can you be like all the Magdalens, be these revealing vehicles for the love and the grace of God, right? It's to apologize. Apology comes from the ancient word apollo. Apollo means not many. So when you apologize, you're reaffirming oneness. And when you reaffirm oneness continually with all of your heart and you learn how to control your thoughts, that's what, please come for the weekend, because the main reason people fail at all systems of spiritual, personal development, advancement, wealth attainment, peak performance, one simple reason: people do not know how to control their thoughts. This is why the master key, Charles F. Honnell, 24 lessons in 24 weeks. I'm going to facilitate the entire first lesson and give you the blueprint and follow-up for all the other 23 lessons. Teach us how to concentrate, focus, and hold that thought. This is Wallace Wattles. Rhonda Byrne never mentioned it in The Secret. The best stuff of Wallace Wattles, I've been studying this stuff ever since I can remember. I have a whole library of first editions of the New Thought Transcendental books. And there's a lot of stuff in those original versions, printings, that aren't in the recent versions. And they teach you how to control your thoughts. When you can control your thoughts, you can think that thought persistently, clearly, and then you will be able to manifest it. Okay, so presently, okay, so how you'll know your DNA is activating, one of the first signs is perception of higher dimensional fields. Before we can actively participate them, we will begin to perceive them. Okay? All right. So, okay. So, all right. Okay. The Grail Line visitors, the ones that are visiting us, most of them hold the Diamond Sun agenda, 3 major agendas. There's the Diamond Sun, quote unquote, indigo Grail Line agenda, the Diamond Sun, Emerald Sun. Then there is the Ruby Sun. Our DNA, by the way, looks like beautiful tetrahedrons, beautiful tetrahedral crystals strung on a string, like a necklace. The Black Sun DNA codes are cubes, black cubes. The Bellicudium, the Ruby Sun orders, and there are other suborders, have part Black Sun coding, part diamond coding. They can go either way, and sometimes they align, they make treaties with us. Sometimes the Anunnaki make treaties with the Draconians, because both to both of those races we're the enemy, but the Anunnaki hate the Dracos. But sometimes they will align with them to mess with us, but they break treaties all the time. I'm not saying never trust an Anunnaki, but we'll get more into that later on. Then there is the Black Sun, all black cube codes. Okay. Interestingly enough, you don't hear a lot about abductions anymore these days, because the main reason for abductions, let's say negative abductions, because the Bellicudium, the Ruby Sun orders, the ones that have a genetic potential of 9, 10, 11 strands, they have a recessive gene in their genome, which is Draconians or races that know how to use it. You can use that for soul snatching, for body snatching, to really, to possess someone's body. Now, I think the abductions have stopped because the digressive races have learned to synthesize that recessive gene. They don't have to abduct human incarnates that hold that gene code, so they could mine very painfully, of course. They don't believe in anesthesia, that certain substrand or that certain recessive gene that they can use to body snatch. I think what you're going to see in the future, I'm not saying it's happened already, but I have a little pet theory that later on, or maybe sooner than later, certain vaccinations will be used to put that into our gene code, into our genome, for mass mind control, planetary mind control. I say these things not to instill fear. I say this for empowerment. I say we don't get bogged down in it, but I think it's important to acknowledge that there is consciousness that because of decisions they made a long time ago to inbreed or to hybridize with the races without a regard of their sovereignty, that they lost a lot of their DNA coding. They lost a lot of the eighth strand content, which means they can't evolve out of a time matrix. The eighth DNA strand connects with the eighth dimensional metagalactic core. With that eighth strand, without it, you can't evolve out of time. Many of these black sun incarnates or whatnot, the antichristos, they're trapped in time. And they want to trap other beings in time to feed off of them without realizing that when they get done feeding them, they're going to be feeding off themselves. And the time matrix becomes a non-evolving phantom black hole. They don't understand that. You want to give them love, these digressive, quote unquote, negative races, fine, but understand at the same time that they cannot receive it. They're just built differently than us. Their emotional bodies are just, they cannot receive. I'm not saying don't send love. Certainly send love, but also realize at the same time that they can't receive it. So the Grail Line visitors hold the Diamond Sun agenda, which is assisting all Earth humans and hybrids to fulfill the 12-strand potential. Remember, the original angelic human, 12-strand, the Turanusium. There was a fall a long time ago, and we are actually kind of like the descendants of fallen angels. As promised in the Emerald Covenant, 248,000 years ago, in the original Emerald Covenant, 950 billion years ago, when the Brennau allowed these races to evolve in our time matrix with the hope that we will evolve co-creatively and cooperatively. Anything non-cooperatively, non-creative, it's a violation of the law of one. And the thing is, if you don't know the law, you're more liable to break it. That's why it's good to know that the law of one, divine right order, divine right timing, yes, they're spiritual concepts. So is karma, but they're also concepts in the realities of physics and energy. That if you think along the lines that violate these precious laws of one, harmony, integrity, impeccability, forgiveness, gratitude, kindness, compassion, it's going to have an effect on your DNA ultimately, and an effect on your life, which is just the holographic projection of what's in your DNA. So we're here as promised in the Emerald Covenant. The Belial sons, the black suns, they want to hijack Earth human evolution. They want to claim dominion over the Earth under a forced one world order. And I got to mention this, that a lot of people believe that parallel Earth, see, we live in a 15-dimensional time matrix. There is a parallel. All time matrices, they're paired. One is electrical, one is magnetic. We're in a magnetic time matrix. There is a parallel alternate time matrix that's electrically based. We know the function, most of us, of the vertical chakras. They regulate and distribute energy up and down the dimensional scale. What about the front and back cones of the chakras? What do they do? Their primary function is to regulate the flow of consciousness, not up and down, across universes. They regulate the flow of consciousness between us and our parallel selves and the parallel universe. Now, if it is true, what some people say, that our parallel time matrix is already under a form of one world order because they're a few years ahead of us. When we create the condition known as karma, bad choices, which is manifested as these sort of crystallizations of disharmonic energy called miasms, blocks the function of the chakras that regulate the flow of consciousness back and forth between universes, we end up with a buildup of antimatter, antiparticles, electrical energy in our magnetic particle universe. Matter, our time matrix is based in magnetism, particle, matter. Our parallel time matrix, electrical, antimatter, antiparticle. And the fact is, when antimatter and matter and antimatter, particle and antiparticle come together the right way, it is annihilation of one body, but it's a recreation of a light body, of a lighter body. When it's done the wrong way, yes, it's just total annihilation. You do this the right way. It has to do with the DNA helixes fusing together, and all the codes have to be in place. And we know how to do that. So the positive agenda is the diamond sun agenda. It's why we're here. Diamond emerald suns, Belial suns, the Bellicudium, ruby suns can go both ways. The black suns, just like the Anunnaki, dominion, one world dominion. Okay? That don't honor the ancient Emerald Covenant treaty, interstellar treaty. Sometimes they'll make treaties, they break treaties. Every Earth human, both star seed and Earth seed, has the right to choose which agenda it will honor. This is why we and many others, Grail line incarnates, and those that are visiting us are exposing these hidden agendas. Again, not to induce fear, for empowerment, Just we acknowledge that this exists. We can't help them anyway, to the extent that we don't help ourselves. The only way to help them, since we share DNA with them, is to do our own work. You're only as effective a peacemaker as you are at peace with yourself. This is why, if you look at the history of meditations, peace visuals throughout the planet, a lot of time it gets worse after the peace meditations. Why? Because even with the best of intentions, if you have unresolved karma, you're projecting that into the earth grids. You've got to be very, very careful when you reach critical numbers in a critical mass of consciousness. We can get this right, okay? Now, there are primary methods of visitor contact. There are pre-birth arrangements that are made before we're born. I think a lot of us know that. There's physical visitation. There are ships. There are plasma ships, Merkaba vehicles. J.J. Hurtak, his experience in 1973 being put into Merkaba. A lot of people lose the fact that his experience being put into Merkaba, being taken up by Enoch and then Metatron, no different than the biblical prophets. Elijah, Ezekiel, they describe it differently, wheels within wheels, but we know the structure of the Merkaba vehicle. We know that when the helixes fuse together, it releases certain seals that allow the chakras to merge up and down, left and right, and create very specific counter-rotating electromagnetic spirals. This is what the time machine is. This is what the Merkaba, or the transharmonic Akasha Merkaba vehicle, is, and it's meant to be built in stages. Respect the structure. A lot of people are just going into the Merkaba stuff without realizing that we're structured very, we have a very specific structure, and that structure has to be respected, especially when we're working with expanding the structure. A lot of people have headaches now, great migraines. Well, the cranial sutures here, our heads are meant, the cranial vaults are meant to expand, looking more like, the Pleiadian Syrian types. If you have blockages in the DNA that doesn't allow that to happen, instead of expansion of the cranial vault, you're going to get compression, what's called compaction. This is why a lot of people, all of a sudden, out of the blue, are having massive headaches, massive migraines, cluster headaches. Anyway, there's telepathy. There's stuff we get in the dream state. There's channeling, better to be a conscious channel. There is communication we call the chelantic communication, where emails are just dropped in us, sometimes since birth, sometimes before birth, sometimes in utero. I was a man in a woman's body until my mother gave birth, right? I was a male in a woman's body. And translations of the Dora Torah plates. There are those throughout history that have been contracted, the Christ, John the Baptist, Thoth, Ezekiel, Enoch, but it doesn't mean that each and every one of us doesn't have the potential to be able to access information directly or remotely from these Dora Torah plates. Again, look at these libraries in the Near East and the Far East. Miles and miles, millions of volumes. There's abduction, there's invitation, and there is teleportation via the Merkaba. Okay, where am I going now? Okay, hang with me. This is going to get really good. It hasn't already. Okay. All right. Why have they returned? Why are they coming now? Because throughout human history, humanity is always at the center of interstellar conflict. Because the human lineage has been created as a race of masters. Why? To serve as guardians and keepers of the interplanetary Templar complex system. Why was the original human race created? And why? What is the primary reason we are here? That we come back and we keep coming back? The major reason is to be guardians and custodians of the planetary stargates, which give access to the interplanetary stargates, to be healers, to be custodians and gatekeepers, to be guardians and keepers of the interplanetary and the planetary Templar complex, the portals, the stargates, free energy systems within our 15-dimensional time matrix. Remember, again, all planets and stars have stargates at their cores, and they open and close at various points in these cycles, usually every 26,556 years. The Earth stargate, the halls of Amenti, and the only way they could open was if the frequency on the planet was high enough. And this is why we came. Especially those of us that are born, I'm going to be 72 this year. There were great waves in the 50s. I know a lot of you out there can hear this. The planet had to be at a certain frequency for even the stellar bridge to commence. And the planetary chakras and vortices, if we hadn't come in the numbers we came in, it would not have happened. It would have waited another 26,000 years. We have an opportunity now that is so precious, so rare, to be of really true and dedicated service, not just to ourselves. Well, we have to be of service to ourselves, but also to the ones we love, even to the ones we don't love, and to the planet as a whole. Understand that there are reasons they do what they do. Just as there is Christos, there is Antichristos. But remember, the healing of humanity will come. Maybe the only way it will come ultimately is when we understand the common core of creation from which we all emerged. They don't understand that. They being the digressive races that had lost a lot of their DNA coding and lost a lot of their consciousness. They don't get it. We do. And we have to get it for them until they can get it themselves. We understand, or we're learning, that there is a common core, and that common core, that cosmic nursery, is Lyra, is the cradle of Lyra. Rockabye baby on the treetop, remember? When the wind blows, the cradle of Lyra will rock. When the bough or the seal breaks, the cradle will fall and down will come baby, like cradle and all. We have maybe fallen to the bottom of the tree, but we all carry the imprint of the cradle of Lyra, which is that 12-strand pattern. We're born with a Christos spark. And we have it within us to be fully Christ in one immortal lifetime. Remember, the original angelic human was immortal, okay? So every time the frequency is high enough, when there are stargates are open, the visitors will come back. I mean, we get visited all the time. Earth is a beautiful place for R&R. Angels, higher beings come here all the time. The food is great here. There's a lot of great chefs that haven't ascended yet. So you want that, that type of great, you come to the Earth for R&R. But you always take a chance. My walk-in happened at 6 years old. That's the kind of walk-in I was hit head on by a car. I won't get too much into it. But then that called for direct intervention in the world for something to come in. And it was in me for about 10, 11 years to save my life. But as soon as it came in and saved my life, it started walking out. But for those 10 years and even onward, I was downloaded with just unbelievable information, Anyway, that's one type of walk-in. Near fatal accident or near death experience or near fatal illness. If you got a contract to be here to do this type of work, they will bend over backwards literally to make sure that you're here and you stay here. But they're hoping that we're going to get it. So for the first time in about 210,000 years, the Amenti stargates are open and the Earth is encountering dimensional blend periods. time continuum merger, and not even talking about timelines and how timelines have been messed with by people going back to the past to try to do things, Philadelphia experiment, Montauk project, that type of stuff. Time continuing mergers during the stellar activation cycle. So whatever group controls the planetary Templar, when the Amenti stargates open, and that was in 2012, will have dominion over the planet. Luckily, we had control over it. But it's always a cat and mouse game when the stargates are opening. Whoever has control of the planetary stargates has control of the core universal stargates, Metagalactic Core, Mintaka, Orion. Okay? So humanity, we're presently caught again within an interstellar chess game over who will control the Templar and the gates up to 2017 and then up to 2042. I talked to a lot of psychics and remote viewers. There seems to be a firewall, interestingly enough, 2042, 2047. You know why? Because it's up to us. We need to, I do a reading called the Book of Fate, a little time word from our sponsor. Nobody else I know in the world does these readings. This was found by Napoleon's men in the late 1700s. There's no oracle like this in the world. Now, why did I bring this up? Oh yeah, because we have two fates and two destinies. Yes, if you don't clear your karma, you will be fated to live out your karma and your past patterns. The whole idea of this work ultimately is to free us to be the authors or the auteurs of our individual and collective destinies, to bring back choice. So again, we're in this chess game over who's going to control the gates. Well, we can choose to be free from many, many eons of manipulation. Okay, a few more minutes, then we'll do a couple of questions, and then I'll do the process. You'll love it. It's a very simple process and very effective. Okay, so hybridization is really the reason for abduction. Again, there are 3 contemporary hybridization programs going on that the contact phenomenon is connected to. You have the black suns, not a reference to skin color. These are the black suns, mainly the Dracon Draconian. Although, please understand, they're not the top of the food chain. The Dracos and the Dracon alliances. There are hybrid races of insectoid, flying winged avian hybrid draconian races. We know some of their names. The Necromaton. I mean, really, do you want to hang out with Necromatons? Necromaton, Odetocron, Omicron. My suggestion is, and it's just a suggestion, offered just like Rod Serling for your consideration. If you're ever in a situation, someone's bringing through Necromaton, Odetocron, or Omicron, get out of there. Get out of there fast. Unless you have some serious protection, which we do teach also. The black suns, the Belial suns, B-E-L-I-L, the sons of Belial, and the diamond suns. The black suns, the Zeta Dracos humans, several reptilian types, a race called the Nephidim that's connected with the Hebrews. I'll tell you, what's happening in Jerusalem now with the Jewish race as a whole, it's complex and complicated. And I want to do a separate webinar just on the Jewish question. Me being Jewish, thrown out of my first Hebrew school at 8 years old for saying that God was a black woman. 8 years old. Where did I get that, Sean? Sorry. Where did I get that? 8 years old, after the walk-in. Of course I knew God was a black woman. Anyway, the Belial sons are Anunnaki human hybrids. There are several types. There's the primary Nephilim, Nebururian, not Nibiru in third dimensional Nibiru, fifth dimensional Nibiru, Syrian, Pleiadian, on Nibiruan Anunnaki human hybrids, Nephilim, Nibiruan. Then you have the diamond sun, the original human, which I believe we represent. Several types, the primary indigo children. So understand the contemporary reason for contact and the hybridization agendas. We need to at least understand some of our stellar history. The history of the hybridization, right? The information that's on the the Dora plates, right? Okay, let's see where I am. 54. Almost done with this piece. Oh, we did that. Good. We did that. We did that. Okay, almost finished. We took a lot to put this together. Where are we now? Okay, so as far as contact goes, how you posture yourself is very important. I guess we will go to 7:15, if that's okay with everybody. Where you are, 6:15.
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
Okay. You know me already. Kathy knows this. The people that know me, it's just hard for me to stop. But then again, I'm not spooning this out. This is pretty high level stuff, but you're all ready. You showed up. And the fact that you showed up, you know me by now. I don't hold anything back. This is why I'm here. It's so great to know why you're here and actually have the ability to do what you're here to do. It may change, you know, view yourself as an equal. It's very important to any visitor, knowing that yes, they may be more advanced, but remember, we exist simultaneously with them. We have the potential to be just as evolved and advanced through integration of our higher dimensions of consciousness and activation of our dormant DNA. In contact experience, not just with higher intelligence, just with any one of us, we need to hold our own power of decision and authority over our evolutionary destiny. Learn to connect directly to your 12th dimensional avatar identity. And we teach how to do that. There are ways to do that. Some people will do it naturally because of memory, either consciously or unconsciously held from past future lives. But we can teach that too. That inner Christ identity, establish a direct personal connection to the one source of creation. Learn from visitors, but let nothing come between you and your personal connection to source. You don't need intermediaries. You know this to make the God connection. You just need reintegration. Be willing to take responsibility for personal choices. Remember, we're being contacted because we're one of 3 primary hybridized races. Be willing to take responsibility for our own conscious evolution. Don't expect others on Earth or higher or among the visitors to direct your evolution for you. They won't do that. Why? Because they understand the law of one. And they understand that they're not going to impose themselves on you, their beliefs. They will suggest things, they will work with you because they honor the Emerald Covenant, cooperation. Okay? Become responsible for our own, learning our own multidimensional anatomy and optimizing it and maximizing it. Become spiritually mature. Be willing to learn the spiritual laws of one and the scientific laws of universal unified field physics. Experience and learn how to work in kindness, non-judgment. You think they're going to contact you if you're in judgment of yourself and others? Very unlikely, unless you're being contacted by negative, digressive consciousness, because that's just the way they work. So work in kindness, non-judgment, cooperation, as much unconditional love as you can muster, and respect for all that lives, right? And make remembering and operating from your spiritual center your first priority in your life. That should be the first priority. And realize you don't need anything formalized, religion or whatnot. You already know this, right? And realize that the riddles and the mysteries of visitor contact will become solved. How? As we begin to understand the true nature of our eternal selves, right? Spiritual maturity includes learning and mastering the mechanics of consciousness, right? You were chosen for contact. Why? Because you have the genetic potential for rapid DNA template bioregenesis. You're chosen, it won't contact you in the first place unless you have the genetic potential for rapid advancement. And becoming consciously involved with your acceleration, that will allow your dormant genetic potential. This is meant to happen naturally. The fact that we have all this karma from this life and other lives can bleed into our life here, this is a time cycle where we're meant to ascend naturally and organically. The only things that block it are not dealing with our true shadows, not being able to control our thoughts, not knowing the true nature of karma, and again, understanding the vital importance and the magic of becoming consciously aware and consciously cooperate with your solar plexus. Okay. It's going to happen more quickly. Okay. And by sincerely working with spiritual maturity and begin to experience conscious contact with pro-human visitor races. Because we're at the front of this new wave. We're the first team that comes. More challenges, yes, but the rewards, I can't even, we can understand love that knows no earthly bounds. You know what I mean? And if we're able to regenerate and activate more of our 12 strand templates, we're going to have the opportunity. What is ascension? Literal biological stargate passage, literal time travel, literal multidimensional identity integration, true at-one-ment with source, with unicide, had the experience, the time travel to more advanced future cultures, you know, all this great stuff. So I think that's the end of that part. So again, don't become dazzled and seduced by the glamour of visitor contact. Remember, engage contact. Just keep, you know, don't expect them to save us, you know, because a lot of these people that are contacting us, these races, they have maybe a little more knowledge than we do regarding the realities of contact. Realize that we can become our own experts and guides through integrating our own higher dimensions of consciousness. And we have the technology to do that, okay? So what we're going to do, I think we're done with that. Yes, we are. So we're going to do this process. Actually, we'll do a couple of questions and then we'll end with the process of facilitating contact. Okay.
Yeah, let's see if anyone have any questions. Any raise hands, anything. I don't see nothing in the chat. Okay, Larry. Larry, you raise your hand. He's raising his hand. Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Phil, thanks so much for all the information you're sharing with us. You're way above all of us, I'm sure. There's so much content. I don't know how your brain just make it as library built into that. I'd like to bring some of your DNA to mention. I'm having some.
You've got it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm having some health issues, and I came across this book, UFO of God, and it was written it's a true story by Chris Bledsoe. He interacted with aliens, and they gave him the power to heal people, and he healed. It was amazing. He had situations where this well-to-do family had a child who was had a real bad illness. Nobody anywhere in the world, of course, the father was a wealthy man, could help, and he went and visited with them, and all she did was hug him, and left, and within hours he was healed. And they were in a formal affair, and a man was collapsing. He went over, put his hands on his shoulder, and he came back to life. I mean, it's just, you know, I'm looking just to deal with some health issues that I have, that I'd like to find ways to heal myself and others, and be a healer, and this while I'm here on Earth.
Well, I would say, I mean, what we should do, get my contact information if you want, and contact me personally, and we'll talk about it. And I'll offer you and present you with some possibilities and some options. Okay?
Good, thank you.
All right. Larry, I promise I will do that. Just get in touch with me. And if anybody's interested in getting some information about the mentorship programs, I've actually created even smaller modules, 3-month programs. And the great thing about the one-on-one mentorship, there is a standard syllabus that all the students have. But with the one-on-one mentorship, you can really go if you want to specialize in healing or this or that. Some people want to specialize in history. Some people want to be in the historians. Some people want to specialize in the ascension mechanics. it's a great, because you don't see a lot of that nowadays, personal one-on-one mentorships, and then joining a group. Because I'll tell you, when we do the group work, the flame body activations, the shadow work, we're just actually starting a whole new cycle of flame body activations. And I say there's no time like the present. And I really, really try to make it affordable, accessible. I mean, because what good is it? The whole idea is to do this and to share this. So who's next? Roger?
Can I just
Yeah,
ask
Roger.
one last question?
Okay.
What's the title of that blue book that you showed? The title, of the blue book? I can't see it.
Okay, it's the solar plexus or abdominal brain. Now, if you go on the internet and Google solar plexus abdominal brain PDF, there are several websites where you can download and probably even print out this whole pamphlet. This is worth its weight in gold. This is worth its weight in root canal surgery. This is what's been missing. Your relationship with the solar plexus and its true function.
Who's the author?
Okay. The author is Theron Q. Dumont. It's actually William Walker Atkinson, is one of his pseudonyms. He's the man who in 1910 wrote Thought Vibration or the Law of Attraction in the Thought World. He's one of the true, well, see, the thing is, there's nothing that The Secret has that the New Thought authors from the middle of the 1800s to the early decades of the 1900s, that you can find it in the writings of Benjamin Franklin, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Jesus, Marcus Aurelius. Nothing's new under the sun. And all these laws, again, I'm surprised that the real nitty-gritty is not being taught. I figure one of two reasons. Either they don't know it. I mean, if they know it, why aren't they teaching it? And I really keep abreast of everything that's being taught in the human potential movement. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know any coach right now or teacher, especially in the realms of personal development, peak performance, wealth attainment, that's teaching the truth about the solar plexus. And why? Because it's the real key to understanding pretty much everything is the solar plexus, to really make change, to really understand the laws. Charles Haanel, in the first lesson of the Master Key, says that the great secret of life, the great secret of life is in the coordination of two centers. He's talking about the brain and the solar plexus. You know what brings them together in the heart? Gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is a magnetic force. Wallace Wattles talks about it in The Science of Getting Rich. It's not mentioned in The Secret. None of these law of attraction coaches mention it, not one of them, that gratitude is a magnetic force which brings your brain and your solar plexus together in the heart. And that's where gratitude is held and projected from. No more powerful, Larry or anybody else. Part of the process and part of the work I do is really teaching the true nature and power, the immense power of forgiveness and gratitude, among other things. I practice something called Cathari healing. When I'm in Boulder, what I can do hands-on is lymphatic healing, and I teach you the technique too. And I can do that remotely. The Book of Fate reading, which I love to do. I don't know anybody else in the world that does this. This is a true, amazing oracle. You know what I love about it? People come to readings and they have questions. What I love about this oracle is it doesn't care what you think you want to know. It already has the questions and the answers. And through the course of the reading, you lead us to the answers to your questions. It was found in Egypt, called the Book of Fate. The Book of Fate.
You're going to want to experience it there. You can't do it just by
Kathy
buying the
had
book.
one the other
I
day. It's
had one.
amazing.
It was amazing.
It's amazing. You know, it was found on a mummy, a perfectly preserved mummy, a high priest of one of the temples of Ascension in Heliopolis. And he held the scroll to its chest, and the scroll was the roll of man's fate. Either you are fated to live a life based on karma, or with the knowledge you gain from the questions answered in the Book of Fate, you can be the author of your own destiny. You know, the mummy used to be in the Cairo Museum, but it's gone. It's not there anymore. My theory is that it got up and walked away, like Boris Karloff, you know, in the movie. No one's heard of it. It used to be in the Cairo Museum. Now it's probably living in Giza or something, you know. Anyway, so that's the solar plexus. That's just one of 4 main obstacles, I believe, to maximum optimized manifestation. This, understanding karma, understanding exactly how complex the shadow is, but the techniques to clear it, to heal it, and allow it to be reintegrated. And also the master key, the control of thoughts. Think. It's the fact that we can't control our thoughts, that everything has failed. Anything that's failed in our lives is because we may have had the intention that sets the primary grid, but we didn't follow it up persistently and clearly. We couldn't control a thought. You're on the highway, you're thinking of your trip to Rome, somebody cuts you off, you curse them out. Well, that curse is going to be integrated into the morphogenetic field of your trip, of the intention. So when something goes wrong on your trip, realize that you set the tone for it. You want to see an end to what's it, terrorism on the planet? We have to stop terrorizing ourselves first. That's the only way it's going to happen. And before, look at the Iroquois legends. Before the Christ comes, the peacemaker comes, and we've got to make peace with ourselves. Forgiveness is the key. Apologize. The Pistis Sophia says it. With progressive apology, the soul is declared innocent of all intentions of intensifications of karma and is placed in the position of never having been separated from the one. So if you feel you've been violated, or you've been naive or ignorant or just stupid or evil enough at that moment to violate someone, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for having the naiveness to be violated or having the ignorance to have violated someone else. Progressive apology. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'm not sorry about what we're going to do now.
Roger, wait a minute.
Sorry.
We have a couple more questions. Let's get them out of Roger.
Go ahead.
And then Paul.
Okay. My first question is, are you familiar with Paul Wallace, his Eden series of books? I read all 5 of them, and I really could relate to what he's talking about, not only from the Bible, but from I forget the word, but a long-term traditions from different cultures that has been kind of hidden, but if you know how to look, you can find it. What's your feeling about his? I mean, he doesn't cover as many years as you're covering, but what's your feeling about his way he looks at things and what you've been looking at things?
I'm very supportive of his work. I'm very supportive of a lot of work out there. I've learned, and it was a learning process, and it was a learning curve, that all these paradigms, I mean, you go back even to fairy tales, folk tales, fables, they're all describing the mechanics of consciousness. They're all describing the mechanics of energy, all the cosmologies and cosmogonies, and all the gods and this and gods of that. This work, and there's so much work out there, you do what you're contracted to do, or what your DNA will allow you to assimilate and transduce and translate. And then when you really get that elevated, exalted perspective, you realize that they're just all versions of the same eternal truths. Many, many different angles from your personal histories or your race history of what you've learned in life. Whatever you feel in the moment, truth may be the most transient thing of all. What you feel is true one moment may not be true the next. But I think we're here to learn, to explore, to be really the vehicles through which God extends his grace into the world. So it's just a beautiful thing. And I know we've all asked to be here at this time, and I think events like this in Boulder Exo and what Kathy does and what we're all doing, these are the strange attractors that bring us together. Because when we work together, when we work separately, sure, we're on their radar, but when we work together, we just light up. And they can see us from space. They can see us from other dimensions even when we do this work. That's why I'm so happy this group I put together, because we're doing the work together and it's really, really accelerating, and we love and respect each other's pace, but so far we're all keeping pace with each other. If you have any questions about the mentorships or the private sessions or the weekend or Wednesday, please contact Kathy. And if you want to contact me privately, like Larry, I'll put my email on the chat. I can do that, right? Or somebody can.
I can get it to him. I can get it to him.
You can get that to him.
Yeah.
But again, if you have any questions about mentorships or the weekend, I hope to see you on the weekend. The weekend is, and realize that I think that it's what we did tonight is connected, because I think, again, true success, a successful, fulfilled life, fulfilling your true purpose, has to do with understanding our history, understanding our lineages, understanding the true history of our race, what it really means to be human. Yeah, the invasion of Eden. Yeah. This is it. Eden, I believe, was an island on the planet Tara, where a lot of these strains and races of the original angelic human lived before a fall, before a group called the Templar Solar Initiates, who go from planet to planet using very powerful tools to open stargates or create artificial time gates and time tunnels. A lot of time planets become destroyed. And every time one of these stargates opened up, or the vortices, there was always that potential. What we saw, a lot of massive earth changes, climatic changes, changes to our DNA, changes in perception. This is a lot because people are messing with the grids. People that either know what they're doing or don't know what they're doing. But luckily, there's enough of us, especially if you know you're here to do grid work, to learn the mechanics and dynamics, especially starting with our own multidimensional anatomy, which is a lot more complex than most people believe, but it's beautiful when you learn about the axiotonal grid and the Cathara grid and this stuff, and really know thyself. Remember that old axiom, know thyself? And that's a knowledge that'll set us free. It has to do with knowing our multidimensional anatomy and how that's reflected on a planetary level, on the galactic level. It's amazing. And I do take requests, by the way. So I know just about every song Joni Mitchell ever wrote. I can play some better than others, but anyway.
Paul, question. We have a question from Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul, go,
Okay.
please.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Phil, can you elaborate just a bit on when you talked about the magnetic vertical chakras versus an electric horizontal reality? These pairing of different realities, are they related to space-time versus time-space? And how do we use this?
They regulate our chakras, everything about all the levels of our multidimensional anatomy regulate our orientation in time and space, and where we can go and where we can't go. I won't get into the up and down, the vertical chakras. They basically regulate and distribute life force currents up and down the body and up and down dimensions. What you're talking about specifically is the front and back cones of the chakras, the ones that come out and the ones that come out the back. The true function is to regulate consciousness between harmonic universes and between time matrices. We have parallels there. The Earth has a parallel. There is a parallel 15-dimensional time matrix. Ours is magnetic, theirs is electric. Ours is particle, theirs is antiparticle. Ours is matter, there is antimatter. The reason a lot of people feel that you're seeing the structures or the infrastructure of one world order starting to emerge on the planet through whatever World Economic Foundation or this or that, through that, is because it has already manifested on parallel Earth. And if something comes into us that compromises or gets in the way of the regulation of the flow of consciousness between universes, which the front and back cones of the chakras, remember you have a magnetic contracting and an electrical expanding chakra. Stargates are sets of black and white holes. Our chakras are sets of black and white holes. In the black hole, out the white hole, in the black hole, out the white hole. But the front and back vortices regulate the flow of consciousness between universes when we create karma, manifested as these dark, kind of irregularly shaped black crystallizations of disharmonic thoughts that interferes with the activation of the DNA, and it allows more antiparticles, antimatter consciousness from the antiparticle universe, which is already under one world order, to manifest in our world. It also helps to know, we learn also the magnetic polarities and monopoles of the body. I think that's a very important study. Just like the fact that this is our receiving hand, we have dual chakras. We have a magnetic contracting chakra that brings it in, but we also have an electrical expanding vortex coming out this polarity. This is why when we do most of our healing, Cathari healing, we put the right hand over the left hand. We block any polluting, potentially polluting energies coming, I'm sorry, the left hand over the right hand. The right hand is the one that gives, there's an electrical vortex coming in, but there's going out, but there's a magnetic vortex coming in. So when we do our healing, we place the left palm over the right hand to block any potentially disharmonic polluting energies coming through the right hand. Now, some people have polarity issues in which it's reversed, but it seems that we have natural and organic, the way we were originally structured to process energy. It has a lot to do with, again, if you're really interested, part of this process when we do the mentorship and whatnot, and I teach separate classes on the structure of reality and the structure of matter, where we get from a unit of sound. I'll just do this for 1 minute, but just a little sort of like teaser. All reality and all consciousness is based on units of sound. Units of sound, I won't get into the terminology, but that unit of sound emerges as 2 units of light, electrical and magnetic light, but they fold back into sound. So from sound, light, omnipolar sound, this is what they don't understand yet, theoretical physicists, that light is both electrical and magnetic. So from a unit of sound vibration, you have bipolar electrical and magnetic light, but they fold back into sound. This is what frequency is. It's the oscillation rhythm of units of sound emerging as bipolar units of electrical and magnetic light. The faster it oscillates, the higher the frequency. Technical stuff, but it's just like anything you learn. You know, that's why it's metaphysics. Oh, we're losing, man, so I got to do this now because we're losing a few people and I want to do the process, okay?
Yeah, let's
All right.
do it.
Any other questions, write to me, write to Ross. This is very important. And it's a very simple exercise we do right now, okay? Breathe easily and gently. Take a few gentle breaths and visualize a blue spark of light in the center of your brain near the pineal gland. Pineal is not in the exact center, but close enough. Visualize a blue spark, electric blue, like a match flame or a stove flame. That's 5th dimensional light. Star Fuentes, when she does her divine intervention, she uses a blue light. She says it's 5th dimensional, 56th dimensional frequency, but it's actually, if you look at each dimension as 12 subharmonics, she's using 5th dimensional frequency, which is electric blue. Visualize that blue spark of light in the center of your brain. This represents a portion of your conscious awareness. A lot of people don't realize when we make these visualizations, they're real. They just haven't fully manifested in 3D space yet. But this is how we create with our thoughts. Inhale, exhale, and move the blue spark down the central vertical current of your body to your tailbone, to your coccyx there, and breathe normally for a few moments while visualizing the blue spark inside of the tailbone. Okay. Breathing easily and gently, deeply and comfortably. Why deeply? Solar plexus. The only way to activate the solar plexus, that's why you do the pranayamic abdominal breathing. Inhale again. Draw the blue spark up to the pineal and then through the 7th crown chakra at the top of your head. So bring back the blue spark from the tailbone to the pineal, then up through the 7th crown chakra at the top of the head. Exhale and imagine the blue spark on the top of your head. And it turns into a blue disc of light, about 4 inches in diameter, like a blue plate sitting on top of the head, sitting horizontally on top of your head. Again, you've inhaled and exhaled. The blue spark on the top of your head turns into a 4-inch in diameter blue disc of light that just sits horizontally on top of your head. Now, imagine a small image of yourself as you look in physical reality, sitting on top of the blue disc. Imagine a small mini you, small version of you, sitting on top of the blue disc. Just as you look in physical reality, sitting on top of the blue disc, this is your 5th dimensional contact platform. Simply by visualizing, beginning to create, bring it right to the doorstep of 3rd dimensional reality, right to the doorstep. Okay? And the more you do this, it will become more and more real here in this world. And the idea is simply practice. I will send this to Kathy, and Kathy can send it out. Imagine now simply just going into this contact space. The secret is practicing going into this contact space and staying focused there. This is why we teach the master key. Because for most people, it won't work because they can't stay focused in these rarefied, higher dimensional places. Simply create the blue disc, sit on top of it, and practice going through this contact space. It's a 5th dimensional contact space. And simply practice staying focused there. It's actually also a mild 5th dimensional Kundalini activation. Practice this every day because you're not going to be contacted if you can't hold the space. Okay? And once you're able to hold this 5th dimensional frequency in your consciousness, when you really are able to stay focused there, it takes a different amount of time for everybody. Eventually, sooner than later, maybe, an Emerald Order member, a member of a race that honors the Emerald Order, will gently approach you, usually in the dream state first. But that's on the blue disc platform. That's where they will approach you and contact you on the blue disc platform, normally in the dream state. But that doesn't always have to be the case. You can actually have physical contact too. Some of us have. And it will begin to subtly communicate with you. And the secret is, prior to going to bed every night, you mentally repeat very simple affirmations. For example, I am ready for Emerald Order contact now. I am ready for Emerald Order contact now. I am ready for Emerald Order contact now. And I will remember contact upon awakening. Be aware and awaken the dream state. You are ready for Emerald Order, and I believe each and every one of you are ready for Emerald Order contact. And remember to affirm to yourself that you will remember contact upon awakening. And also, this will also contribute to the progressive activation of your 4th strand and 5th strands. Okay? We'll do more of this on Wednesday, and it's going to be part of the weekend too, because this is a very important module where we won't do it as much as the other modules, but I will give you all the links to everything that happens over the weekend. So don't worry about getting it actually, the weekend is probably the simplest thing I've ever taught, but the most profound and significant, because we can learn something from every workshop we take. But how do you get the most out of it? Don't we want to get the most? You can get something out of everything you take, but why not maximize the principle of optimization, optimizing your life, wherever whatever that means to you. We all can have that. We all can have that. People say to me, well, where's your this and where's your that? Well, not everybody's the same. Not everybody wants the same things, but I know that everybody wants what they want. If they truly want it, coming from their heart, you can have it. As long as that you don't violate someone's, as long as it's within the law of one and you understand the laws of kindness and non-interference and love and gratitude and forgiveness, we can have whatever we need to fulfill our soul's purpose. And the secret is not to ask for anything more, and at the same time, not to settle for anything less. I'll leave you with that.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
God bless
you.
each. God bless each and every one of you. Okay.
Thank
to
you.
see
Thank
you
you.
in
Thank you,
Boulder.
everyone.
Okay.
Thanks
Spread the
everyone.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy and Ross as well.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
One thing. So it's very strange. This morning I have started with the space-time time-space meditation by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I mean, it's weird that you actually mentioned the space-time and time-space, because there's actually the same meditation from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I started this morning.
This technique that we just did, it's very, very simple. And even before I got into the Kelantan, before I met Anna, this is an exercise used by many magical groups and whatnot. It's very simple, but very profound. As long as we understand that what we create in our mind through our thoughts is real, it's absolutely real. It may not manifest it here in the 3D, but with persistence and focus, it will. It will.
Yeah, you got to do your work. Got to do your work.
Yeah.
Dedication.
Got to do the work and be patient with yourself. Wallace
Yep.
models, just because it hasn't manifested in your physical reality doesn't mean it's not on the way.
Perfect.
So many people, they stop just on the cusp of manifesting it because it hasn't, they can't perceive it yet with their physical senses. The pizza's on the way. You know what I mean? It's on the way. You ordered it, it's on the way. Don't give up.
Janet, you have something to say?
I just wanted to make sure we had the contact emails and things that we need. So, and where we can find them.
I'll make sure you get them.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'll be
Me-
sending out the recording link.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Ross,
Okay.
I know from before, but it's really great to and Xavier, I think we've met before online, through Portal to Ascension or through Sheila or someone. But it's great to meet all of you, see all of you. I hope to see you again. Hope to see you in Boulder. We'll have fun. Okay. We'll have some really profound fun. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
All
you
right.
all.
Yeah.
God bless.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Phil.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now you're a
Bye.
rock star. You're a rock
Okay.
star. Got a good
Bye.
buzz going, you guys.
Okay. Janet, contact me if you have any questions. Just contact Kathy or me. I'll try to answer all your questions. So
Yeah.
come to the classes. It would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put the link to
Okay.
the classes in Boulder in the chat. If you want to see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
And we
Thank you
really have made them
all.
as
Oh,
affordable
thanks,
as
Larry.
possible. I mean, really. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right.
Bye bye, Boulder.
Many
Bye.
blessings.
Bye.
Hi, see you, Phil. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
I'm going now,
Thank you.
Kathy. I'll talk to you soon. God
Yeah.
bless you all. Larry, contact me.
I
Okay.
will.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
my
thank you
friend.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Everybody, Raj, Ross, Janet, Julia, Tansley, lots of love.
What a
Bye-bye
way
now.
to serve your
Bye.
community.
Bye-bye
Bye.
bye-bye from West Hollywood.